I hear it all the time, way too frequently in my timeline. I can right-click and save your JPEG, and now I own it too. Or I could have drawn that on my own. Here's the kicker. You didn't. And that little monkey right there that's over my shoulder, that monkey costs more than many people's houses. Why? Where's all this euphoria and this craze coming from? Why is it such a big deal? Why are NFTs the next big thing and a huge leverage play when it comes to investing, especially in the cryptocurrency world? I can best illustrate it with a pack of Pokemon cards. So by the end of this video, what you'll understand is what NFTs are, the different kinds of NFTs, what makes them so special, and how you can get started investing in NFTs on your own. Let's get going. So while I'm opening these Pokemon cards, now is a good as time as any to tell you that nothing that I say is financial advice ever. I am just an average Joe off the street who is learning the ropes about trading and investing. I've had a lot of luck along the way, gotten really handy and nifty in the NFT world, and like to share some of the things that I've learned along the way, hoping it can help you out. But again, always do your own research. You take these risks on your own. You know, sometimes these things are very volatile assets. Usually they are very volatile assets. And you could be, you know, incurring a lot of risk and challenges along the way if you're not careful. All right, let's see what I got here. We got some Pokemon cards. Doesn't look like... Ooh, Dratini. Well, no, Dratini's not that great. Nope, nothing looking good. A lot of energy cards. Ah, here's a holographic card. There's a good winner. Okay, let's look at the other pack and see what I got here. Did I get anything good out of this pack? Let's check it out. Jump to the... Ooh, Poliwhirl holographic card. All right, that's cool. So, you know, the whole thing about NFTs and why I think they're such a big deal is it comes down to the fact that collectibles and the way artwork is purchased and invested in has changed entirely with the advent of blockchain. Now, in order to understand how you go about collecting NFTs, you need to understand some key terms, like what does it mean to mint an NFT? And how do we get to this collection state? I thought this was all about artwork. Well, it is and it isn't. It depends on the kind of NFTs and collections that you want to get into. So what I hope you can gather from this video is the different kinds of NFTs that there are, the different kinds of projects that you can invest in, like the monkey here, as well as where you can go to get started with them, and then you'll start to understand why there is a bit of hype around them. So I feel a little bit of an endorphin rush after grabbing a couple holographic cards like a Poliwhirl, which is one of the ones that I'm familiar with. I kind of dipped off of the Pokemon world after I was like 12 or something, but the feeling is still there. When we talk about NFTs and kind of diving back into the collectibles, you start to see people throwing around 6 digits on JPEGs like they're trying to buy Boardwalk or Park Place with Monopoly money. I mean, it happens all the time. This is like collectibles for adults. This is big kid trading and having some fun with collectible cards. So, that being said, there are alternative ways to invest in NFTs. So let's talk about how NFTs came about. What problem were they trying to solve? And then how did they evolve into being this kind of collectible craze that we're seeing today? We'll talk about where you can go to get NFTs and what are some of the big projects that are coming up. I'm going to have a lot more content on NFTs, specifically on specific blockchains, what are upcoming projects that I'm excited about. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. It's free to click. It won't bother you at all. You won't get a single push notification unless you click the little bell right next to it. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter because I share a ton of alpha about NFTs on my Twitter account. If you don't know what alpha is, we're going to cover that too in just a second. Check this out. I want you to consider for a moment what the profession of an artist has traditionally looked like, and then think about how that's evolved in recent history. An artist would sit down at their canvas and they'd be on an easel. They've got their palette of paints and they would paint up something. They would paint something that they're viewing. They would paint a landscape. It would be an impressionist painting, an abstract painting, a surrealist painting. Whatever the case is, they would paint it, and then that would be a physical asset, the physical piece of art that they could then sell. They could say, I created this. I'm going to sit on a street corner, and then this would be the only one in existence, and I'll then sell it. They would either make a ton of money doing that because they're very popular in their time, or they would die, and then their family would make a ton of money because they posthumously made a lot of, shook up the ground up a lot and made some huge waves after their death. You see this with all of the traditional artists, right? You see the Andy Warhols, you see the Rothkos, you see the Kandinskys, the Picassos, so on and so on and so on. All of these traditional artists led into a wave of people who wanted to get into the arts. But we now live in a digital era. We now can traditionally make art. We can also make digital arts. But digital arts came with this added challenge of the fact that you can, in fact, right-click and save as. Pretend for a moment that I am a artist. I'm sitting here, and I sit down at my computer because I am a digital artist that wants to work in Photoshop or Blender or Cinema 4D or whatever the tool it is that you want to use to create some form of artwork. So I, make a landscape. Here's a sun, and here's an ocean. Maybe I'm drawing a beach or something like that. And this is the world's worst artwork ever, but sometimes that stuff is really popular. So what I do is I've created this, but now there's no street corner for me to go sit on and say this is the only one in existence. Because that's the problem with digital arts. I put that on a website, and guess what? Everybody and their mom can right-click and save it, and there's nothing that says that this was the only one in existence. There's no way to do it because it's all ones and zeros on hard disks, right? So this has been the challenge for digital artists for a really, really long time. I mean, for decades, really, that they've existed. You can go all the way back to the first Pixar movies like Toy Story. If I was a digital artist and I wanted to use my craft to make income, it was going to be really hard to sit down at my computer and do it on my own. I'd have to go be employed at a place that desired digital arts. This is going to be like the Pixars and the DreamWorks and places like that. And that's just what I'd have to do. I have to draw what they tell me to draw, not what I want to draw. And that's been really the biggest challenge of all until the blockchain came along. When Ethereum launched, Ethereum had all sorts of potential. Ethereum was designed so that we could have the Ethereum blockchain, which, if you don't know what that is, just consider it a way to keep track of all sorts of transactions that are taking place in a certain computer network. That's a great way to put it. But then, with Ethereum came the way that you could build on top of it. You could build your own not blockchains, but you could build your own protocols or your own tokens or coins on top of it and just use the Ethereum network to trade them back and forth. So you would pay for the transaction. Like in this case, if I wanted to move token A over to token B, I could do that using the Ethereum network. I pay for this transaction to take place using Ethereum. And then I can just, but these protocols, token A and token B, solve a specific purpose. This was all done with something called smart contracts. Now, I'm not going to get into smart contracts too much. Just know that the idea is we can now take an existing blockchain and build specialized protocols and tokens and items on top of it. Well, the cool thing about smart contracts and this tokenization is the fact that we can now take a digital piece of artwork and create its own token on the blockchain. And now we can say that this token is actually representing this piece of artwork. So if I create this piece of artwork, I can say, I'm going to create one token that represents this piece of artwork, and whoever owns that token now owns the art. That's the idea here, is now I can create my own art that I am inspired to create, and I can certify that this is the only one in existence because I've created this token that represents it and guarantees and grants you ownership of the artwork as part of it. That's kind of the idea that NFTs solve. They call this non-fungible tokens because that's what non-fungible means. It means that there's only one of these in existence, and it can't be, transferred into a different kind of token. This is it. This is the one. So, NFTs evolved in such a way that it gave people a way to trade items. Not just pieces of artwork, but pieces of music, pieces that belong in a video game, like, a special sword of something, can now be traded back and forth. Hell, you could trade a house if you wanted to. You could say the deed of this house has been granted in this token, and trading back and forth. So NFTs did that, and the arts became a great way to now certify digital artworks and trade them back and forth. But the really cool thing about it is in the smart contract itself, we can bake some intelligence into these artworks. So check this out. What we're going to do is bring up a website real quick that is really well known for independent artists to create and share artwork. This is on the Tezos blockchain. It has smart contracts, and people can deploy their art onto the Tezos blockchain and just trade the artworks back and forth by trading Tezos. So this website is called Hic-et-Nunc, very oftentimes referred to as HIN, and it's hic-et-nunc.xyz. And you can just browse and scroll down. So when you scroll, you get here immediately, you can just start scrolling. And what you see here is a lot of people who are selling their artworks that they've created. Some of it is, I mean, that's really cool, right? So if I click on this, let's just look real quick. Someone is selling this right now for 0.55 Tez. That is roughly $3 or $4 that this person's selling for. And they're selling 10 copies of it. Right there. This is the artwork that they've created. They're selling 10 certified copies of it, and they're selling it for basically $4. So they're looking to make $40 off of this piece of artwork, this animated piece of artwork that they created. A very cool thing about it is it doesn't have to be static artwork. It can be videos, it can be GIFs, it can be music, it can be a combination of the above. And this is what's happening now, is people have now created a way to trade these artworks. And that's, I mean, if you're very interested, you can actually go to hic-et-nunc.xyz, and then you can do /Knox_trades/collection. You can look at the things that I've created, or I've saved here in my own collection. Some of this stuff is stuff that I'm completely obsessed with. So you can browse, like these are what independent artists created, but the smart contract enabled some beautiful things into this. For instance, with these independent artists, one of the things that they can do is they can set a royalty that they can receive upon a secondary sale. So when we just saw that previous artist that had listed their 10 editions, one of the things that they did is that's called the primary sale. They've created these on the blockchain. They call that process minting. When you create it on the blockchain, they minted them, the 10 editions, and that's the primary sale. So once all 10 primaries are sold, then the holders of those primaries have the option to sell them again. They can trade them just like stocks or any other assets. And when they sell those, that's called a secondary sale. And the cool thing is that these artists can receive a royalty from every secondary sale for the rest of time. So maybe they set that royalty percentage to 5%. Maybe they set it to 10%. The idea is whenever this piece trades again, they're going to have some form of perpetual income. Now, all of a sudden, they've got an amazing way to have a career as an artist. They created a piece of desirable artwork that can be traded for the rest of their life, and they will receive some form of income from that trade from here on out. Amazing first step into the smart contract world. But you may be wondering to yourself, well, where does the Pokemon craze come in? I'm not seeing anything that makes me feel like I'm opening a pack of Pokemon cards. Let's kind of draw up something for 1 second. You've just seen is the first category of NFTs. This is going to be by independent artists. When you see this on Twitter or Reddit or whatever your social media platform is where you're going to follow NFTs, you're going to see art broken down as independent artists versus profile pictures. Sometimes this is also known as 10K. Sometimes this is also known as generative. Why? I'm going to talk about that in just a second. The markets for these two types of artwork and things that are traded as NFTs is quite a bit different. With independent artists, they create one unique piece of artwork, and then they either sell it as a one of one. This is how it's going to be written on Twitter. You're going to see it 1/1. That means there's only one edition of that piece of artwork in existence. They minted it in one place with one time. You've got one chance to buy it or one chance to resell it. That's it. There's not going to be multiple editions available for sale. or they're going to be known as editions. And you could see these as 5 of 5, 10 of 10. They set the number. You say how many times you want to mint. Could be 25 to 20, 500 to 500. One of the things that is common when you see this is you'll see an artist mint something like 25 of 25, but they keep 2 or 3 of them for themselves. One for themselves, and a couple to give away, one to give to a friend, something like that, one to give to their kids someday, who knows. So when they mint something of a 25 of 25, don't be surprised if you only see 22 of 25 actually available for sale. So that's kind of an interesting thing, but this is how independent artists make their money. Now, a fascinating thing that's going on is the collectibles craze. And I'm actually going to clear the screen a little bit so we can talk about the profile picture projects. The profile picture projects really came into popularity thanks to really just really 2 main projects that are in existence. Let's bring them up real quick. When we talk about profile picture projects, you could really think of their origin as starting out right here with CryptoPunks. Now, I'm on OpenSea.io, which primarily operates on the Ethereum blockchain. CryptoPunks were one of the original standards for NFTs. In fact, they were literally written in the ERC 721 standard themselves, which was created around mid-2017. So when you sit here and you say like, okay, well, why does this, it looks kind of silly with this 8-bit, but anybody could draw that, whatever. This is why these are so special. This is, first of all, a piece of history that will be written in the annals of art history books. I can guarantee you that. But beyond that, they did something that was kind of cool. So this is going to be one where I'm going to have to illustrate it up here for a second. Let's take a look at, let's draw it up. When an artist sits down to create art, they're doing it in something like Photoshop. They're going to draw, you know, the neck, the head, some eyes, a nose, a mouth, some hair, maybe, you know, an accessory like an earring or a cigarette. Whatever the case is, they draw it, but they don't draw it all at once. They draw it in pieces. So they may draw, hang on, let me clear the screen here. They may draw the head, and this will be layer 1. Then they'll draw eyes. This will be a completely separate layer, layer 2. They can choose to show or hide the layer. So if they hide the layer, the eyes go away, but the head stays there. If they bring the eyes back, then if they unhide the layer, then the eyes come back. Then they'll do, you know, the mouth. That'll be layer 3. So all of these artworks that we see here are kind of drawn in stages, or they're kind of drawn in pieces that can all be kind of put together. So if I'm like, you know what, this mouth is cool, but I'd also like to have a smiling mouth, I could then do layer 4. And I'd also like to have a frowning mouth, then I could then do layer 5. And the idea here is I can just hide and show whichever mouth I want to show at that given time. Starting to make sense how we've got all of these layers coming together to create one piece of artwork? Well, if I look at this guy right here, this is kind of what they've done. They've taken, you know, a base of a head, and then they've got a skin color attribute that they could swap out. They've got a mouth attribute that they could swap out, nose attribute that they could swap out, beard attribute that they could swap out, scar attribute, hair attribute. You get the idea. All of these unique attributes gave them the ability to create something like 10,000 pieces, or 10,000 pieces of artwork. So what happened the day that these went live is people went to their website. I'm going to make up something like CryptoPunks.com. I don't think that's the real website. Don't go to that. I don't know what you're going to see. They connected their wallet, their Ethereum wallet, to this website, and then they had a big button where they themselves, the consumer, the purchaser, could click the big mint button. And what happened when you clicked the big mint button was it generated one of those items on the fly right there. It just randomly chose layers. It knew that it could only have like one eye layer, one hair layer, one mouth layer, and so on. But it randomly combined all of these attributes together to make a person. And that's what it did. But wait, there's more. One of the cool things about it is we could have, say, 5 mouths. We could have mouth 1, mouth 2, mouth 3, mouth 4, and mouth, oh, got it, don't go off the screen, 5. And then we could set weights on each of these mouths to determine their rarity. So I could say mouth 1 may be only 2% of all CryptoPunks ever created could have mouth 1. And then I can say 4% here, and 8% here, and 16% here, and then whatever's left over could go into mouth 5. So they controlled the rarity of the attributes themselves. But wait, there's even more. If 10,000 of these CryptoPunks were able to be created, the smart contract that created them kept track of every single one that was created and all of the attributes that were used to create that CryptoPunk. So now that we know who got what crypto, or at least what addresses got what CryptoPunks, and what their attributes are, we can immediately determine which ones are actually rare based on what allocation of percentages of attributes that they got. So CryptoPunks was really the first one to do it. And why were the CryptoPunks so popular outside of the fact that we now can determine which ones are rare and the fact that they did something cool by generating these things on the fly? Now you kind of understand why they're called 10K projects. They create 10,000 of them. They're called generative projects because they are generated on random at the moment that you click the mint button. But one of the other big reasons why is that people like avatars. People like to disappear for a little bit. People like to play video games where they get to be somebody else for a moment. So in their social media worlds, what you see is these are called profile picture projects because literally people are taking these images and turning them into their profile pictures. Now I'll tell you right now, the CryptoPunks are priceless. I mean, like, I'm pretty positive you can't get one for less than $100,000 right now. You pretty consistently see them sell in the millions. I've seen CryptoPunks sell for over $5 million before for particularly rare ones. The other big project that's really set the standard, and I mean the gold standard, for not only creating an amazing profile picture project with generative project, but also building a community with events and just constant games to play and just friendships and everything like that, is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Now, the cheapest that you can get one right now is 39 Ethereum. That's like 100,000 bucks or so. They're pretty expensive to get, and they've only been around for 4 months. But they were really like the first major player on the scene that did a cartoon animal. Same thing here. It's all generative. These are all just layers that were randomly slapped together at the time of mint. They launched, I'm pretty sure they launched in April, so they're relatively new on the scene. And my goodness, these things are so incredibly popular. Now I'm going to do a dedicated video on what makes the Bored Apes so special, why they're so popular, why they are the gold standard for NFTs, and why they are legitimately worth 6 digits or more in an upcoming video. But for now, this is what I wanted to show you, is that there is this concept of creating an NFT on the fly, and that's why it's kind of like jumping into a pack of Pokemon cards. You really hope you get a rare one that's going to be, valuable someday, or you hope that the project itself is going to be a big deal that's going to build a community around it the way that the Bored Apes and the CryptoPunks did. And even if you don't have a rare one, you still could make, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You may be wondering, how much does it cost to buy one of these? Well, you saw the independent artists already on Hiccup. No, for the most part, they're very, very affordable. When it comes to generative 10K projects, the prices are all over the place. You could see them for as low as 150. I've actually seen some for free in recent history, just so that they could attract a huge community. But it's pretty common to see them sell for anywhere in the $150 to $1,000 per mint range. That's just kind of where it is. It's all over the place. For instance, in Ethereum, you pretty commonly see them sell for, I'm just going to kind of write right here, you pretty commonly see a mint somewhere between 0.05 and 0.1. On Solana, you pretty commonly see them between 0.5 and 2.5 SOL. Oh, I got to write ETH right here, just so we're clear. Tezos doesn't really have very many profile picture projects at the time of this recording. They've got one that I know of that was very popular called Tezards. That was created by an artist named Oh God, I Drawed It, who I follow on Twitter. Amazing art. I own one of his pieces, a bedroom nostalgia piece that is a big part of his collections. That's pretty cool. So This is why NFTs are popular. They not only gave artists a way to generate a constant stream of income off of their artwork, but it also gave into a craze where people can start to collect things and determine their rarity and trade those, like trading cards. This is why collectibles are all about this. But more importantly, is that when you mint one of these things and you become a part of that community, you really do become a part of that community. It's more like joining a club than it is like just owning a JPEG. And I can't stress that enough. There are some projects that do community so well, it's just mind boggling how inviting they are and how much fun it is to just be a part of that group. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk about what Solana NFTs are, why they're a big deal, and what the blue chips are. Really, what I'm going to stress on there is what communities are really succeeding in the Solana ecosystem right now. So if you're new to NFTs, or you're just getting started in NFTs or Solana NFTs, that's going to be a great video for you to watch. So in the meantime, this has been what makes NFTs so special. Thanks for stopping by, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.